3, 2, 1, action.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order the November 20th work session of the Croton Harmon Union Free School District. Item 1.2, approval of the agenda. Recommended action be resolved. The Board of Education hereby approves the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. I will turn it over to Superintendent Walker to introduce our work session tonight, which is from our Pupil Personnel Services entitled The Power of Partnership.
I love it. Yes. Good evening. Thank you, Anna. Good evening to everyone who's watching at home. And first of all, thank you to our 6 phenomenal faculty members who are here this evening. I just wanted to say I think you can learn a lot about the school and the school system by how they respond when a student needs support and when a student needs intervention, whether that be through the form of academic intervention, language-based intervention, behavioral intervention. You can learn everything about the values of the system and how they respond when a student needs that kind of support. And I'm incredibly proud to be a part of the system that responds the way that we do. And happy and thrilled to be here this evening as amazing members of our faculty share some of those interventions and our approaches for students throughout the district from K through 12, led of course by our outstanding Assistant Superintendent for Pupil Personnel Services, Rachel DePaul. Rachel.
Welcome everybody and thank you for being here tonight. So tonight we're going to highlight the power of partnership in both our integrated co-teach program and our English as a New Language program. Across the district, students thrive when educators are responsibly collaborating and have a clear vision for inclusive education. Our ICT and ENL teams work together to provide high-quality, responsive teaching. These partnerships strengthen instruction, boost engagement, and create classrooms where all students can succeed. And this work is all firmly grounded in our vision map. Can someone advance this slide? Who has this? Clicky. One more. Okay. One more. And this is just our annual photo of the department. Those that didn't run away when I called for the team to come out to take our annual photo. If you could advance one more. Okay, so to kick off this conversation, I'd like to introduce Rob Ancona, Kelly Ingram Friedman, and Amy Yanarelli Shaw from the Croton Harmon High School.
All right, thank you. All right, good evening everyone. We are very happy to be here. I'm going to start, thank you. I'm going to start and talk about one of our partnership models, which is the Integrated Co-Teaching, also known as ICT, at Croton Harmon High School. The ICT model is a general education classroom that has 2 teachers in it. One teacher is the content teacher. In this case, I have Mr. Rob Ancona with me tonight, so he is my content teacher partner. He is the expert of all things social studies when we're together. He's very skilled at sequencing the content-related knowledge, the concepts, as well as the skills needed to be successful in that kind of course. And he's also able to foster deeper study of topics and make connections. On the flip side, when I'm in the class with him, I would be his special education partner. I'm the expert of learning styles and strategies. When I'm with him, I'm able to assist students in accessing their content knowledge, those concepts, and the skills that he's trying to foster. I'm also able to differentiate in real time for students, pull certain groups of students, work with an individual student, or sometimes just differentiate with what we're doing presently. So it is always a gen ed teacher and a special education teacher, but what's important to understand is that we share equal responsibility for all of our students. It's not a special education class, although our students may have that as part of their special education programming. It is a model that addresses the unique needs and abilities of all the students in the room. And we work together to create that specially designed instruction that Rachel spoke of. And we have a really fun time doing it. We enjoy it. There is power in partnerships. That's our ICT. And then I just wanted to introduce you to the other ICT partnerships that are in the high school. We have 6 in total. We have Map Stories and Timelines, which is one of our interdisciplinary courses that is also an ICT. This is offered to, this is for 9th grade students. It's our English and Social Studies interdisciplinary. It is taught by Ms. Samansky, our English teacher, Ms. Southwick, our Social Studies teacher, and Ms. Cardenas, or Ms. C, our Special Education teacher. We have English 10 as well. That is with Ms. Ardolino, our English teacher, and Mr. Callahan is our Special Education teacher. In the middle, we have Ms. Garrett 2 times. So Ms. Garrett is our algebra teacher. She does Intro to Algebra with Mr. Callahan as our special ed teacher, and she does Regents Algebra with Ms. Diak. And then up top, we have another interdisciplinary course this year. It is QUAPS. It is offered to 9th graders. It's a combination of math and science. And in that class, we have Ms. Glasenberg for science and Mr. Vogel for math with Ms. Diak for support. And on the bottom, for Global 2, you have myself, Ms. If, and Mr. Ancona for Global 2. All right, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the models of ICT and what that might look like.
Yeah, so here on the board we have our 6 different approaches to partnership at the high school. So we range from station teaching, one teach, one observe, one teach, one assist, parallel teaching, team teaching, and alternative teaching as well. It's important to know that yes, we have these 6 foundational approaches, but really every day, depending on the lesson, depending on the needs of the student, we're being very flexible in our approaches to changing really even in the middle of the lesson as well, whatever is needed for our students.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're moving on to the other component of the partnership. That's the E&L program at the high school. So E&L has 2 components. There's the standalone model, and that the students are pulled out into a separate classroom, a smaller setting. They're instructed in that group, and we work on everything from reading comprehension to fluency. We work on a lot of phonics and fundamental skills for building literacy. It's a mix of direct instruction and project-based learning to build fluency and comprehension in their native language as well as their second language. It has an emphasis on language acquisition through listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So those 4 components are very important in the E&L program. And we focus on 5 linguistic components, which are phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. Okay, so the other piece, or the other side of this, is the E&L integrated model. So that's similar to what Kelly spoke about with pushing into the classroom and working with the general education teacher, and that can be across different subject areas. The students are instructed in a whole group setting. There is co-planning that goes on to make the curriculum accessible for all learners. The activities and resources are provided in English and students' native languages, because you want to simultaneously build and strengthen the home language as well as the new language of their learning. There's explicit direct instruction of vocabulary and content to build the background knowledge. And we use visual aids, videos, and graphic organizers to scaffold the material and provide the necessary supports. So very similar to what Kelly's doing, but I'm coming at it from more of a language end. And there's some of our friends here in the E&L program. So this is over the past few years. They've gone in and read to the students at CET. We have a lot of collaborative projects that we work on together. Some students who have graduated with many awards and honors. I'm very proud of them. In the bottom corner was a trip that we took to one of the local colleges for students to have that experience. So we do a lot of different things outside of the classroom, not just the focus on learning within the walls of the classroom, but also just life experiences.
We're still going.
Doing great.
There's a lot. Also at the high school this year, we do have one class, Global 2, that has an E&L support and also ICT support. That is not the same time. They're 2 separate classes. But that does mean that we have become very close this year, and we are new best friends. So we're going to talk just a little bit about the way we kind of work behind the scenes. We do meet weekly. We do utilize the collaborative periods at the high school this year that we will meet weekly. We need to do that because we need to collaborate with one another. We have to plan, and we are focused on designing lessons for students that are classified. We're looking at accommodations that we can address through those lessons. We're looking at goals that might align with some of your goals for your language learners as well. Students that might need differentiation or enrichment, we might be translating some materials, battling with the seating chart quite often, rearranging groups, tracking progress through both formative and summative assessments, and promoting language acquisition and content mastery all the while. But we showed you a little copy of our calendar here. We do have a calendar. We were laid out for the entire year. So this is sort of our launch pad, that it does have all of the lesson plans in place. We try to keep about a week ahead, about 2 weeks ahead, with as far as what we're differentiating and modifying. But it's really very helpful because there's a lot of moving pieces in a class like this that you want to really keep them tight in the back.
We also do a lot of daily check-ins because, sometimes we'll get through a lesson and then we'll say, okay, this didn't go well, we need to work on this, or let's adjust this for, next week when we meet. So aside from the weekly check-ins, we also do like daily check-ins with each other. Yeah.
And then we're going to pass it back over to Rob to talk about some exemplars of the work.
Yeah, so here's a few examples of lessons. On the left side of the screen here, we have our current event assignment. It's a pretty heavy lift here for some of our students, so I'm sure you can see there's multiple different approaches we have to it. The real purpose behind this, besides just for Regents testing, really is to allow access for our students for more of a skill-based level. So here's where we are working those historical reasoning skills, the enduring issue skills that are going to be really following them throughout the next few years in their career here at the high school. We want to make sure they also are not just working on these skills, but really viewing themselves as global citizens too. On the right side of the screen, a little more of a micro view to some important lessons. We have our Enlightenment thinkers at the top and some economics with Wealth of Nations at the bottom. We really make sure that students have also that content ability, that content grasp, especially for these specific themes that will, again, be following them not just to U.S. History junior year, but also to their senior year as well.
All right, and then we were just wrapping up, and here we are. This is the three of us at the end of a very long day. We're still smiling. But this is us. These are a couple pictures from our two classes. It's very hard to see in some of them, but you do see a couple of the different models there. We do tend to visit all six, I think, in both of our classes. And just really, to echo the title of the presentation, the powership or the power and partnership, it really is a very beautiful thing. We're very lucky this year that the three of us have this opportunity, and very lucky that we both get excited sometimes at 8 p.m. texting about an enduring issue or like a great new assessment. But it does. If you have a good partnership, you can do really great, exciting things if you're on it, and we are very lucky with that.
Yes.
And I have to say, my kids, they've gotten very close to both Kelly and Rob, which is nice because I'm always trying to get them to, branch out and, form relationships with other teachers in the building, and they've said to me several times they love working with the three of us, so that's great.
Amy's like a mama bird. She's walking down the hall, she has like a trail of her students.
I'm a helicopter mom.
She is a helicopter.
But thank you, so that is us.
Thank you guys, that was
Thank you.
fabulous. So next I'd like to introduce Danielle Van Tassel and Margaret McCarthy, along with Erin White Goodwin. Our ICT team, Ms. McCarthy and Ms. Van Tassel, work at CET. They are in the second grade. And Erin is our ENL teacher, which works both at CET and PBC, middle school, supporting our English language learners.
Thank you, Rachel. So, good evening, everyone. As Rachel just said, I'm Margaret McCarthy.
And I'm Danielle Van Tassel.
And together we are the co-teachers in a second grade ICT classroom at CET, which is also known as 2MV. And so we were both new to CET last year. This is our second year co-teaching together. And we're really proud of the classroom community that we've built and the collaborative work work that we feel really lucky to get to do together each day. We're very excited to share a few snapshots of our partnership with you tonight. So when Rachel asked us to describe the power of partnership in an ICT setting, we talked it over and we realized that so much of what's special about what happens in our classroom is only possible because of our strong partnership.
Having 2 teachers co-lead a classroom is so much more than having a low student-to-teacher ratio. It's about having a built-in second perspective all the time on everything from lesson planning to differentiation strategies to behavior management and parent communication. There's a constant flow of collaboration and reflection daily. For example, with co-planning some reading rotations, redesigning a citizenship project, or adjusting a math group on the fly, because sometimes you plan and things don't go as planned. And we're just always adjusting to our students' needs. And with 2 teachers in the room, we can support students in countless ways. During whole class lessons, one of us might be leading the instruction while the other is working with another student and giving them some words of encouragement to get through the lesson. And depending on the lesson and the needs of the class, we might be pulling small groups for differentiated groups, pulling students for individualized instruction, or breaking the class into small groups for heterogeneous groupings, working on different projects.
So within our ICT class, we have a wide variety of learners, each with different strengths, learning styles, and ability levels. Together, we use research and pedagogy to guide our teaching decisions. We often find ourselves referring to Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, which remind us that every child brings their own unique set of abilities into our classroom. So our job as partners and teachers is to design instruction that gives every child the opportunity to learn and grow in ways that fit them. So when instruction is presented through multiple approaches, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, digital, students build confidence, strengthen weaker areas, and engage more deeply in the material. And a partnership is what allows us to make that variety possible every single day.
So with having a built-in collaborator at all times, on the daily, we're able to take on innovative and multidisciplinary projects that align with the vision map. So for example, we were inspired by our neighbor teacher, Nick Shapiro. He did this really awesome election project, and so we were inspired by him and wanted to get our class involved. And that allowed us to break the class into different groups based on their interests. We had like a cozy club, we had a ballers club, a cuddly club, the list goes on. And so we were able to break up into these interest groups, and I was able to take a group into the Tiger's Den and utilize that creative space and give students the opportunity to design Canva posters based on their election party. And then Margaret was able to take the other groups into the classroom and work on the more digital commercial part of the project. And yeah, this allowed all of our students to be able to work in a small group, storyboard, film, and do a scripted commercial project.
And another example is happening next week. As we approach Thanksgiving, our students will be designing their own parade floats. So first they'll sketch and plan out their ideas in class tomorrow afternoon, and then on Monday we'll bring them to the CET library with Rennie McManus, our CET librarian, where they will use the balloons and craft materials to transform Dash robots into their thematic floats. On Tuesday, they'll use their iPads to program the robots to follow a parade route through the hall. So these projects truly integrate multiple disciplines, content areas, and learning standards, and they create an engaging and dynamic learning environment that is accessible to all of our students. And they're really possible because of a strong collaborative teaching partnership. And I love when you were saying that you text at 8 p.m. We're constantly working I have an idea. Oh, I have an idea. Let's push this for tomorrow. So
both in our pajamas.
Yeah.
What about this for tomorrow?
It really
Sure.
it allows us exactly to just adjust, to change, and to feel like we're able to take a risk and try something new, which is really, really wonderful.
Yes, and finally, beyond all the practical benefits of an ICT and having a wonderful co-teacher, with the differentiation, the flexibility, the professional growth we experience together, there's something less tangible, but equally as important, which is joy. The joy we experience every day, and that's hard to measure or define, but we define it by the laughter, the creativity, and the sense of community that we've built together, and the care that we share for all of our students. We believe that when two teachers truly enjoy working together, it creates a classroom where the students feel that same energy and where learning can be joyful, meaningful, and full of heart. So we hope that this joy that we experienced together came through our presentation and is in our classroom.
And so we have one last slide as well. So when we were preparing for this presentation last week, we were feeling curious about our students and how they feel about having two teachers in second grade and what they like about that. So they were very eager to volunteer and share some of their ideas. And here's a small sampling of what they had to say.
If one teacher is helping someone else, the other teacher can help someone else at the same time.
What do you like having about two teachers in second grade?
I like having them help me.
Hi, so what do you like about having two teachers in second grade?
I like it because there's more people to ask for help, and there's more adults because if there were too many kids, it would be a little crowded.
Alright, why do you like having two teachers in second grade?
Because it's fun, because we have if we have one teacher, then it would be the same teacher teaching all day, but if we have two, they can teach different lessons and in different places. I love having two teachers.
So we're so thankful for all the support from the district and from the Board of Education to be able to have the resources to meet the needs of all of our students. So we love what we do, and we're so delighted that we have to share that with you tonight. And we invite you all to stop by CHUFSD anytime to see the magic of partnership in action.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Erin White. I am at mostly CET, but PVC as well. And I'm going to show you the partnership, but with a little bit of a different twist of different ways that the students work together to learn, how we utilize things outside of the school building to learn, so different types of partnerships. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that my partnership with Janet Cueto is like the greatest ever. I mean, oddly, we are exactly the same. We met and it was like, this is good. This is great. And so it's fantastic. 'Cause like you said, without a strong partner, you just can't take those risks. And you do things sometimes and you're like, ooh, but you have someone by your side to say, no, we're gonna get through it. So I have just a ton of pictures, and I was going to just kind of talk you through my pictures. So on the left here, this was learning from and with each other. So these are some of our older students helping some of our younger students. They were working on reading, sight words, decoding. They're mostly phonetic words that they could sound out. And it really is great for the younger ones because they're hanging out with the older kids, which is amazing. But for the older students to have that sense of pride, to go in and say, I've got this, I can do this, and now I can help somebody else. So that just increases their sense of ownership of whatever they're working on, which is really nice. And they will constantly do this. If you ask, yeah, can I go? So it's never hard to get them there. The next two pictures show, so this year we did something a little differently. We grouped, rather than by grade, we grouped by overall ability, regardless of age, and that has been phenomenal. The top picture, I don't know why everybody's all in red. It looks like it was planned. But that is a group of a first grader, 2 third graders, and a fourth grader. And they're working on the magic E at the end that makes the vowel a long vowel. And the first grader actually tested out of ENL at the end of kindergarten, which does not happen often. She's extremely bright. But we don't just say, great job, good luck. You know, we still, for 2 years, they get 90 minutes a week with us just to make sure that they're comfortable and ready to take on whatever's in the classroom. So it's really great for her because we can really kind of take a few steps ahead of what they're doing in the classroom because she has those abilities. So she loves coming with the older kids. The older kids love hanging out with Katie, but it's just really nice because they're just a nice group and they don't get self-conscious about the age difference. They just really enjoy learning. So they're practicing in isolation how to read the long vowel sound. They have to look for the E because the words would be like, trying to think. Well, this wasn't one, but this is the only one that's coming to my head. It would be win and wine. That was not one of their words that they were working on, but for some reason I'm blanking on every other word. But they had to really pay attention. They couldn't just kind of rush through it, so it really forced them to look. I will think of one of the real ones that come up. Yes. It's been a long week, so his wine is on my mind. So the picture right below it is a group of 2 second graders and a 3rd grader. And again, just by ability, and they work really, really nicely together. And you can see even just the BD, PQ, because we always have things that are just out, so they can refer to it. And just different things that are on the table, different worksheets they're working on. You can really see the scaffolding. There happens to be, it's hard to see, but a scaffolded worksheet of, here's a sentence I trace. Then the next sentence will be missing one word. Sorry, I'm just going to take a sip of this. And so then they have to sound out that TBC word. Sorry. So we find sometimes sentence writing is really hard for our younger kids. They can read them, but when it comes to producing on their own, it's really, really intimidating. So by just kind of working down and maybe taking away 2 words on that next line. So it might be like, I see a cat, they trace, but then it becomes, I blank A, and there's a picture of a pig. So they have to sound out pig and put in the word C. So it's just constant practice to really build up their confidence. And the next one you can see writing, like I was saying, so important. So we'd like to keep it together as a book when possible, because then for the students, we can show them, hey, look where you were in September, and look, it's only November, but look at the difference. Because sometimes I don't think they really realize when they make those kind of, take those kind of steps and have that kind of progress. So it's really nice to show them, no, that's your handwriting, like you did this. And then the last 3, so this is our mascot, Apple. It's actually my youngest stuffed animal, but he's coming to that age where he doesn't need it anymore, so he asked me to bring him to work. And the kids love to work with Apple. It sounds so silly, but even the girl, the top right, she's reading. She has this word isolator, so as she's going word for word, she's only looking at that one word to help stay focused and sounding out. And there's something about just having him there, it kind of just gives them a little bit of comfort. And the girls on the bottom, again with Apple, they're working on vowel sounds because it's a really big deal. So I'll go to the next one, and this is TPR, total physical response, especially at the young age, when they can physically get involved in whatever it is they're learning. It just works with all those multiple intelligences. So the first 2 on the right, this is the 3rd grade career day project. So it's quite extensive. They have to decide what they want to be. They have to do lots of research on it. They create these posters. They dress like the career they're hoping to get. And so there's a lot of back and forth talk between the ENL group and the 3rd grade teachers who have our students. But it's so great for them because they really can jump into whatever that career is and understand it so much better. And the next one, these are fun. I should have brought it, but it makes like a kind of sound as you pull it. And so we do that when we're segmenting words into individual phonemes. So if the word is cat, they go k-at. So it really forces them to hear. I had to pull it 3 times. So when I'm writing, I need to think about, 3 times, I need 3 letters. Because for some reason, sometimes they do that, but then there's like the disconnect when it's writing, so that really helps them identify how many letters should be down. Wrong way. This was fun. I did a play last year, and we're doing one soon, so I'll send out an invitation. This was great, because these are some more of our more advanced students, and we were working on reading with expression, and what better way to do that than through a play. So this was a funny take on the Gingerbread Man, not the regular story. They were adorable and had the greatest time.
That was spectacular.
Right? They were so happy. I mean, and then already, are we doing another play? We're doing another play, don't worry. And then here's more tactile practices. On the top, that's shaving cream, and they're practicing writing the word said because it's not a phonetic word, so that is very challenging. So it just takes constant repetition, and writing is kind of boring. Used to be a punishment, I will not run at recess kind of thing. So now, writing and shaving cream, and it's win-win because it also cleans the tables really well. So it's win-win. On the bottom is kindergarten working on their letters. So, and especially for kindergartners, holding that pencil for some is really challenging. So then just having a finger to create that letter and practice that formation is very helpful for them. Oh, so when one of your students just arrived from Ecuador 3 months earlier and sees snow for the first time in his life, you get out there, you touch the snow, you see, you put it on your face, what does it feel like, what does it look like, what does it smell like, and you incorporate that into everything you're doing because that's huge and you don't want to miss that opportunity. And he was thrilled. And the top two, we did, this comes more to, we want to give them experiences that they might not typically have because that also is, that kind of helps with equity in that sense, because sometimes we take for granted what we think kids know about, and they really have no idea. So we had a Valentine's party, and we had our chocolate fondue, and they got to dip and try different things, and it went well, as you can imagine. And then the bottom, this is our favorite picture. If you look at the boy in the red shirt, in December, they learned about the Gingerbread Man in all their classes, but it's not a very Latino topic. It's not something that they've done. So on top of learning the story, what are the characters, what is the plot, all that information. Then when that was done, we brought the dough, they rolled it out, put them in the oven, they got to decorate their cookies. It was so exciting for them. So that's where that partnership really, thank goodness for that partnership. That is not a one-man job. But they had the best time. And then this, whenever we can take them out of the classroom, also just so helpful. It's just those things that really stick with you. I mean, I still remember in 5th grade going on a canoe in the Shinnecock Canal on Long Island. Like, those are the things that you just don't forget. I did not take them canoeing on a canal. But this, Janet and I had a night where there's a Peruvian author and screenwriter. Her name is Dora Brisblick, and she came and she spoke to the parents. So this was our a reading night, how they can take home some of our strategies to help their children at home when they're not in school with us. So the bottom right, you can see we created some games, whether they be letter identification, letter sounds, CVC words, are they what we used to call sight words that are not phonetic, different games to work on that. There was coloring some bookmarks. You can create your own bookmark and write on it. And Dora was it was really so amazing. She was so engaging for everybody, not just the students when she read one of her books, but the parents really, I mean, you could have heard a pin drop. She has just such a cool vibe to her, and she's done so many amazing things, and now she's working at the UN, but she understands what it was like to come and not speak the local language, so she could really connect to the parents in that sense, and that was really, really great to have. And the kids loved, they hopped right in the picture. They had a really good time. She was amazing. And then up top, I used someone in-house, and in the middle, he's kneeling down so he looks like he's their size, but that's Miguel, who works in our IT team, and he's amazing. And he came from the Dominican Republic when he was in 7th grade, didn't speak a word of English. So I said, hey, would you mind coming to them? I said, I didn't walk that path that they did, and so I want them to meet as many people as possible who walked that path. So he came, he spoke with them. This is 3rd and 4th graders, and they were the whole time just wow. And then when they see him in the hallway, it's like, Miguel! saw Miguel, did you see Miguel? I saw Miguel. And he's so phenomenal, and he had that perspective, again, that I didn't walk it, so he was able to say, yeah, some days it was really hard, and some days I wanted to give up. But now, not only is he successful, he's successful where they are. So he gets to see them, and they get to see him, and they get to understand what his success looks like. Wow, look at what he can do. And then it's also great because they know, oh, he also speaks Spanish. So if I need something, I know he's a good guy. I know he can help me even if I don't know the words in English. So that's a really, really nice connection, and he was wonderful. I can't say enough about him. This top left, this is just more multi-age activity outside of the classroom. We're a family. That's the way we look at it. And so it's not a first grade family or a second grade family. We are the ENL family. And it's really nice because as they get older, when they come to PVC, they're going to already know some of the older kids. And that just takes some stress away. You know, yeah, I'm nervous, I'm in 5th grade, but you know what, I know, and they can start thinking, well, the older kids, and it kind of helps them feel a little more at ease. And they get, I mean, you wouldn't even know they're different grades. They get along so wonderfully, and they're all so sweet. And then this was fantastic. I took them to, obviously, the Yorktown stage, and they saw Music Man Kids. So prior to going, we learned about the story, we read the story, talk about characters and setting and what happens and this whole thing. The difference between, I think that it was set in like around the 40s, maybe? I don't know, 50s? More, less, 20s?
20s.
Okay.
10, 15.
So, but it was set quite a while ago, so we really had a conversation. Okay, well, what's going on there and what's going on in our world now? How is it the same? How is it different? Because comparing and contrasting is so important for them to really get a full understanding of what we're talking about. And then we got to see the play. So we didn't read the very end of the book because I wanted to see what they got out of the play. And they did a really nice job. They're like, oh, wait. And they can kind of say, did this happen? And did that happen? And I think that, you know, he didn't go to jail and he didn't get in trouble and the whole thing. But they had the time of their lives. And also, again, going back to equity, I said, oh, we're going to go to the theater. Oh, can we have popcorn? I said, oh, no, this is a movie theater. And they looked at me like, oh, what else is there, you know? And so I explained it's a theater where people are on the stage, so if you act silly, you're going to disturb them. And so not only did they learn about the story and the setting, but they learned the etiquette of going to a theater. And they saw kids their age, which was amazing. So it's from, I think, 6 to 11 years old. So two of my kids do it, and they do a really nice job. So they could see, oh, you know what, that's an option for me. I never knew about this program. Maybe they have one at the middle school. So, hey, that's an option for you if that's something that you think might be fun. And so they really, they learned a lot that day. And the little boy all the way to the right, you probably can't tell, but he got completely dressed up. He was in dress slacks, button-down shirt, dress shoes. He was so excited to come, and it was a really special day. We're hoping to do it again this spring. And then last but not least, so yeah, I took this Deion Sanders quote. If you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you play good. And if you play good, they pay good. So, but for the kids, so Janet and I have tons of clothing. I mean, I was telling Rachel earlier, we probably gave away $2,000 of clothing at least. And it just comes from donations. Friends of ours, and when kids outgrow it, what do you do with it? And I said, you know, let's collect, and it was really nice. So we had tons of coats and snow boots and snow pants, sweatshirts, sweaters, t-shirts, I mean, you name it. This is only the fall clothing. We had another one in April for the spring, summer. So we try to schedule it around the conferences. So in April again, we'll do that weather. And it's really nice because the parents are so appreciative. So when the kids can feel good about what they're wearing, they're proud of themselves, and that whole pride just carries into the classroom. And the pay that they receive is that amazing education that's going to give them so many opportunities and unlock doors that, I mean, those doors can take you anywhere. So yeah, this is one of our favorite things to do because it's, after the parent shop, our absolute favorite is we call each of the kids in small groups. We say, okay, what do you like? If it fits you, it's yours. They'd be just beaming, and the pride, they come in the next day, they're like my sweater, and you're like, I love it, it looks beautiful, and it's just, that pride is so important, and it's just win-win all around. It keeps things out of landfills, they get some beautiful, we've had Patagonia coats, North Face coats, we're talking quality things, but when they don't fit your child, you don't have a use for them. So yeah, that's probably one of our favorite things to do. But that's the partnership between Janet and I, and then the different ways we utilize that partnership with the outdoors, the partnership with the other students, the partnership with the manipulatives, things like that. So I know that was very long, but I hope the pictures kind of told the stories in themselves as well. Thank you.
I don't have so much a question, but rather a couple of observations, having been around the district for a long time. The first thing that I see from what you were talking about with Liddell coming into CET and connecting with the kids and the connections with those who are not, Erin, your kids, but with the other kids in class, because we don't have a segregated ENL class. We, have heterogeneous groupings with the work that you all do. And the same thing in high school is how much we as a school community interact and bring people together so that those opportunities are available. One of the things that I noticed, I was here for Tiger Tuesday, and I know one of the things that was done as I came in, I saw one of our transportation staff waiting to take E&L students on a trip around the community so they could learn about things to do free or low cost when they were off for Thanksgiving break. And I thought that was great, not only because of the providing that opportunity for the kids, but also the fact that we have transportation staff. And I'm sure, you probably can guess who the driver was, because he is a local person, lived here his whole life. But
we special requested him.
I'm sorry, he doesn't know that, but anyway, it's Ian.
Yes.
And, the fact that people do work together. The other thing that I noticed when I went to the play, that I think we are starting, and I hope it comes out of the kinds of things that Erin, you were talking about, to have students who are our ENL population saying, you know what, I can be in the middle school play. I can be in the high school play. So that connection is not just in the classroom. The other thing that I noticed, which is very interesting, and I'm focusing a lot on what Erin, you were talking about, is the manner of teaching English words, sentences to the students you work with. It struck me that it's very much based on what some people talk about as phonics. That's what you're doing to have an introduction for those students to language. And I'm assuming in your classrooms you're doing the same. And we had in this district in past years a complaint by certain members of the community that we were off on this teacher's college whole language, what they would call boondoggle. I think we really are looking at a balanced and much more appropriate manner of teaching. I hope that as we go on in high school, there are more of these co-teaching opportunities, both in your fields, your spheres, and in classrooms of just melding different subjects together. So they're just observations, no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to give our student ex officio trustee an opportunity to speak. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I just want to make room for student voice. If you have anything that you want to say, I wanted to give you an opportunity to do that.
I think it's all. No, yeah, I just think it's super interesting to hear about, like, as a fellow student, like, everything going on, like, at my school or at, like, the middle school or elementary school that I have no idea about. And it's, like, honestly, like, so amazing just, like, hear about, like, all the things going on at different schools and, like, all the steps being taken. And, like, I just think it's all, like, really great opportunities, and it's awesome to hear about.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for giving us real insight in terms of what's happening. So I have one kind of technical boring question, and I'll give you context for why, and then another question. I'm a professor at Brew College, which we have like over 116 languages that are represented in the students we teach, so a lot of what you're talking about like resonated a lot with me. And I have to say, one of my personally favorite teaching experiences was co-teaching, and what you said really resonated with me. Just like a technical point, like when I taught, there was one instructor on record. So like when it came to, like you talked a little bit about collaborating with the formative and summative assessments, from a technical standpoint, like particularly like the high school, is it you that's giving the grade, or is it you both of us? Okay.
We're all teachers of record.
Okay, thank you. That's really interesting. And then the second question that I have, which again might be too long-winded for today, so I'm happy to reach out to you later, is I know one of the things that I have struggled with as in my teaching is when you have people with different languages and like how to navigate getting everybody to work collaboratively and feel respectful and supported in group projects. So I don't know if there's a quick way you can talk about if there's anything you're doing, or if that's too long, another conversation.
I think that's where the differentiation piece really comes in a lot. That would be a piece where, I mean, this year I have, like all my students speak the same language, but there have been years where I've had different languages. And that's where that whole differentiation of the material and like pre-planning and really like sitting down with your team, or just even if it's for my pull-out group, you have to really think ahead and say, okay, how can I take this lesson and make it accessible for, you know, this language, this learner, you know, that's where the pre-planning really comes into play. But it is a challenge, but it's also nice because like Erin was saying, they can really learn so much from each other, and students love learning different languages. So you tell them, you know, certain words in another language or just different things, and they're into it. So it's a challenge, but it's also really great.
Amy, can you speak to the assistive technology that we've, integrated for some of our English language learners?
Yes. So for some of our ENL students, they could be dually classified, which means they have an IEP and they're also an ENL student. So we've kind of incorporated iPads and different types of technology to assist them. And actually, I met with Ellen this week, and we're currently working on something where one of my students who really needs a great deal of support, she's utilizing her iPad, and Ellen was teaching myself and Ryan Callahan, who is another one of our special ed teachers, how to get the lectures when the teacher is lecturing in class, that she can listen through the headphones and it's picking up, and she's reading the narration, and she's also listening to it in Spanish. And that's very helpful for her because then she can take notes in her native language and then later on go through and we can translate it and go through everything together.
I think it also, from our end, the supports might look different depending on what the language is. The outcomes that we're really, the objectives that we're looking for, those are still going to be the same. So that's really, the graphic organizer to kind of use our slides, that might look different depending on the needs of the student, but the end goal still is really going to be the same, what we're going for. I also think it speaks to the classroom community, the district community too that we built. I think the students believe in us and they respect us professionals. So if we're trying something new, we are trying to kind of collaborate, they're on board and they're ready to work.
And I have to say too, when we've, just when you're talking about partnership between students in the classroom, if there was group work, for example, because they're often in groups and sometimes for projects, but just sitting in groups. But there is something really to be said to the community that you're building in that room and the connection, the rapport that you make with them, you know, between us and the students, but it does trickle down, and they're really very kind.
Yes.
They're very kind. So if they're in a group with a student that, we do have a couple students who need a reader. We do have a couple students who need several other, you know, we've got a mixed bag, but we are very mindful, that seating chart.
Yeah.
We're very mindful when we're creating groups. And we do try to switch that up so that, you know, everyone's
Everyone
you know,
feels
having,
supported.
feeling supported, but also challenged, if we can enrich some folks and support other folks. But they're really very kind to a couple of our students who do have that language barrier with us, because we do not have Amy in the room with us. But we work together in advance so that when we have those students with us, but it does somehow kind of work out.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot behind the scenes, I think, with us too.
Thank you.
Of course.
If funding weren't a constraint, are there any additional resources you would like to have that would better support you and your students? And whether that's curriculum perspective, coaching, more co-teaching, expanding that model, or thinking you mentioned about technology.
I think
Magic wand. Wait, you got a magic wand.
Especially with, actually no, I was going to say especially with the younger crew, but it really, now that I think about it, it doesn't matter the age. Money for experiences. Because like I said, there's so many things that are just assumed that they know, they're aware of, and they don't, and it just will broaden their horizons of what the world has, what it offers, what their interests are. Maybe all they know right now is soccer, because that's what everybody does, and they don't like soccer, and they're like, well, there you go, I guess I got nothing to do. But then if we can just tell them what else is out there, or are you really into computers? Maybe we can look into a computer science class for a younger student that might not have that option, because that's not something we have at CET. So it would be pretty amazing if we could somehow survey them. It's harder to survey younger kids because your answers are, I'd like to fly. But to somehow survey the younger ones, and the older ones, like, what are you into? What are you into that you wish you knew more about? What is something that you've heard of, but you don't know what it means and you're really curious about it? Because I think curiosity is so important, and I don't want people to lose that, because that's where all the fun is. I'm kind of curious, let me check this out, and then suddenly you're doing something you've never done before. So that would be really great for me, is just to open their eyes to what's out there.
I think that's a great answer, Erin. I was like, no, what a big question. But as soon as you said it, I thought, yes, that would be incredible. If you know, we had sky's the limit. I think being able to yes, do like different field trips, other experiences that integrate the lessons would be really powerful.
That's what they remember.
Yeah.
I mean, field trips. My own son just came back from FDR's house, and it was like, Mom, did you know he had a wheelchair in every room in his house? And did you know he had polio? I didn't know about polio. And it just sparked a really nice conversation. So that would be great. Yeah.
Just one thing on that I'm thinking about in terms of experiences, and it kind of ties in to what I described about the Ian Martin bus tour, is there are probably, or there may be, resources outside of school, such as programs, classes, whether it's at the Ossining Library or other community organizations that parents may not know about, kids don't know about, that for our ENL population were they to be introduced, that is a low-cost item unless we're going to provide some, some assistance somehow, if there's a tuition or a fee to expose those students, those children, to those opportunities, and even outside of what we'll call the bubble of Croton, if that's something that can be, that can be helpful. And that's really more family resource center, and
Nice plug, thank
nice plug. And perhaps our social work and counseling team may be able to help to identify those opportunities and make them available.
Questions?
Yeah, just sorry. High school? Anything in high school?
I have one. Sure. You have an answer. I would love that as well. But I guess on the day-to-day, maybe thinking from my special lens, but also since being in more ICTs, there is so much value really in having two teachers in a room. I know that's the focus of the conversation tonight, but there really is. And I guess from speaking from my own group of students, we have some of them who are in resource, will come to us for remediation of a skill. And, years ago when we didn't have as many ICTs, we would remediate in the classroom, we would preview, we would review, and then they would go off to class. And it was really hard, so we couldn't be with them during the work, right? Like when you're in the trenches doing the work of it. So I am a big fan of ICTs. I'd say everyone should have an ICT. And I am a big fan of it because it works. So it works. And it's meaningful for students who are currently classified, but I also feel it's really great for those kids that kind of fall, just under the radar as well. A little bit of help, a little bit of support. Not quite one that would be classified, but definitely could use that extra support. So I'm a big fan of them. I also feel there's a place for a resource room, if I'm being honest, for students who are classified. I think it depends on the learner. But on like the day-to-day, ICTs are great. I think they're a good partnership.
Yeah. So speaking to experiences too, last year we were lucky enough to have Senator Pete Harcum come and speak to some of our seniors. If we could open up that type of access to our ICT ENL population as well, there is a real curiosity, especially at my sophomore level,
Very curious.
of politics, of functions of government, of community members, and what their role is, and really what their job is. And I think that would be really meaningful and very valuable to this population too.
Thank you.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
So speaking to last year, you had different languages. Is it basically a homogenous group of, for the most part, Spanish speakers?
This year I have, I don't know, your group mix. This year we have 2 students who speak Chinese. The rest speak Spanish. Last year we had a girl from Haiti who spoke Haitian Creole. There have been others in the past, but in the past, I only started last year, so I can't speak to prior to that. But the past 2 years, it's been mostly Spanish, but there have been others.
So how do you communicate with because you basically have a homogenous group, but for a one-off or?
Yeah, which is hard because then they can sometimes really feel like odd man out because they're in the gen ed classroom. Okay, I don't speak English well, but then they come to the ENL room, it's like, oh, well, they all have Spanish, what about me? And it's hard, so it's, like Amy was saying, that's where the planning comes in. Pictures, manipulative, something that you can touch and hold to really understand it. It's really hard to teach the intangibles, like the days of the week, if they don't come knowing that. That's really hard, because how do you say what Tuesday is? So I would say a lot of repetition. The fancy word is translanguaging, but that just means having multiple languages up in the classroom. So
Labeling everything with multiple languages.
Yeah, but it's and somebody told me this, and it was like a light bulb moment, but at the same time, it's like, why didn't I ever think of that? But those are scaffolds, and the whole point of the scaffold is to take them away because you won't need them. So having all those things up are great, but then when they don't need it anymore, it's important just remember to take that away, because otherwise, well, they're just going to look at their native language and they might not look at the English. But especially in the beginning, labeling everything, pictures of everything. Now it's so easy because even if we don't have the big smart board, we've got our phones on us. So if they don't know whatever it is we're discussing, boom, there's the picture. And so it just helps clear up a lot of things. And then there's also last year with our student from Haiti, we did not have anybody that spoke Haitian Creole. So on the iPad, it was, I speak, and it translated it into Haitian Creole, and then she would speak, and then it translated it to English. And so anybody was able to have a conversation with her. And then even the kids were having conversations. And she really has just absolutely blossomed. And this year, she's up at the middle school, but you'd never know that she came in January and didn't say a word. I mean, it's really incredible what a little sponge she was. But yeah, I would just say, just tangibles, pictures, labels, and like if you're gonna do the days of the week, you need to do it every single day to the point where they're bored with it because it's so easy.
Okay. The next couple questions I have are more directed toward the high school, just because there's so much stuff going on there. So I guess my question to you is, how are you using the technology? Because the level of technology that's being used at the high school is different from like an iPad or translation or anything like that. So I guess my first question is, are you using the technology? And my second is, if so, how?
Yeah, some of it's different, but it is a lot the same. Like for my one student, she has her iPad, the dually classified student, she brings the iPad with her, she uses that a lot. We do a lot of the same thing, visuals, any type of programs that can say the words in their native language and English are good. We just adapt it for an older age group.
Okay. And then in terms of like Tiger Days and all the activities that go on there, all the different sign-ups that they're doing, is there integration? Like, how do you navigate all of that at the high school?
Integration in terms of the kids going into the different trips and things?
Well, trips or lectures or different things like that. I mean, there's amazing things happening. And to your point, to like broaden and expand like the view to have them not be able to participate in something like that.
Well, it's funny actually. So 4 of my students this year, which I was so proud of them, they joined the Chinese club. And we've done a few trips already, and they go to the club it's on the Croton weeks, because it alternates Croton and Harmon. So they attend all the events and the trips, and they work with Miss Aramita, and they love it because, again, they love learning other languages. So yeah, they've been definitely integrating into that. Actually, the bus tour that you saw us going on, that stemmed from a student last year in my class. There was a book in my room, and it was on history of Croton, and he was into it. He would read it all the time, and he was, interested in it. So I was, Pam Morrison and I were in a program together through BOCES that combines the ENL teacher and the librarian. And she said, wouldn't it be so great if we did a tour of Croton with them this year? And I said, oh my goodness, I had a student last year that was really into that. So that's where that kind of came about. So there are trips that are kind of like scheduled and, like kids can sign up, but then some of them just kind of come organically from students just being interested. And that's what you saw today. They were learning about not only things to do, on their breaks from school, but also just about the history of Croton in different places and, why they're named the things they are and who they're named after. And it was really nice. So they've definitely been taking advantage of that for sure.
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys. Mr. Arcona, what you said about the outcomes really spoke to me. That it's not really about, the language or where they enter, but it's about the outcomes and where they leave, and hopefully giving them a solid footing.
Yeah, that's really where the hard work goes in. Is we really want to make sure that the outcomes are going to be the same, and really everyone can achieve everything that they can at the high school year.
I think I would just say that in our slides, if you remember back to our slides, there were a lot of pictures I think you were talking to about the current event and the enduring issue, but I think we had said that right at one point. We had multiple different versions for different learners in our room. And I always kind of like to think of like the school year almost like a swimming pool, right? Like you're going to start the summer, you're going to get in that pool, and I'm going to give you a life vest, and you might have a noodle, and you're going to have swimmies on. And I'm going to get in there with you, and we're going to make it to the other end of the pool, right? But eventually, we kind of, you want to peel those scaffolds off so you can get to the end of the pool. And that's what we're trying to do, really, right? Some students will lose those scaffolds very quickly. That's good. And some students, they might change form or might hang out a little bit longer, or they're going to need additional drilling, maybe in the resource room or in E&L, or during collab time, we'll have students come in.
Or you might need to change the scaffold
We might need to
out.
change scaffold out, yes, but the end goal is always that we're all gonna make it to the other side of that pool together.
I love that.
Just circle back on that question before about resources and budgeting. Is that a discussion with the building principal or with you, Rachel?
Typically me, I would send out a wish list.
Yeah.
And then we try to like parse it out, what the school, administration will incorporate into their budget and what, PPS would assume as an expense for the upcoming school year. A wish list, I always emphasize, it's a wish list.
That's how it starts.
I'll just chime in and say, I think it sounds to me like you're a very lucky group of teachers to be working with people that you love working with. And it's really exciting to see. I mean, I know everybody does, but this is more special because it's like you're doing it in the trenches every day in the classroom, and it's really a testament, I think, to your creativity and hard work. The thing I was surprised that you didn't ask for on your wish list was like more planning time, because I cannot believe you're texting each other and copying that, although I also totally can. And hopefully that's also something that we can sort of think about, sort of better. If we're going to be heading more into this direction, there has to be also time for you to sort of do all that extra, because you're not on your own doing it by yourself and, thinking about it in the shower. You have to, hopefully you're not doing that together. Right? You have to have that time to think about when you're going to make the decisions and what you're going to do. And I hope that there's ways to sort of figure out that everyone's getting the time they need to sort of plan to be able to do it, because it's a different way of working, but it sounds like it's very exciting.
Yes.
I do appreciate you acknowledging that. That is funny that none of us said that. We're just kind of like, we gotta make it work. We gotta make it work.
Well, you have time to think about it for the wish list.
Right. There you go.
But again, it speaks to the fact that when you're thinking of your wish list, you're thinking about your students, and I think we all appreciate that.
Yes.
The reality is that, our role is to be able to hear from you in terms of, are you also being resourced to do the work that you need to do?
Thank you.
And it doesn't necessarily feel okay to say that in a big room like this, but you have other opportunities to convey that up the line. So we hope that you will.
Thank you. Thank you.
Another observation, I think, because we've talked over the years about what in essence, I know a former superintendent said, I think that every student should have an IEP, meaning an individual educational plan for, where they're going to go, what they're going to do through the system. But in thinking about this, I think it's a little bit different, because kids' needs change, and the resources that they may be, and their interests may change. And what I really appreciate from what I've heard from all of you is, and it takes the time, and it's, the things that Anamika mentioned, and Anna mentioned, and others have mentioned, that everything is, for each kid that you're working with, is constantly being reassessed on an ongoing basis to say, you know what? What's working, what's not working? What do I see? How can I encourage that child? And having that IEP, as you might have in a more traditional sense, really doesn't work. And I think it is a testament to our district, to what we talk about is the risk-taking that we encourage and appreciate, to think, how can I get to the end for every child, for every child's need? And I trust that that's what other members or your colleagues are also doing in their own spheres, even though they're not working quite as intensively collaborative as you have the opportunity to do.
I don't have a question, but I just want to thank you all for coming in and sharing this all with us tonight. Because I think, as some of my other colleagues have said, it shows the power of that collaboration and action, and it's great to be able to hear from you that you have the support to be able to do that it's working so well for our students, and that you are able to really spend that time and work together, and that pays dividends, and it's great for our kids. So thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you guys, I appreciate appreciate your time.
Good evening.
Sharing your
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Be
you.
careful going home. Thank you. And there's more. This is the exciting stuff.
Wait, that's the exciting stuff, or yours is?
I'm about to hit the exciting stuff.
I just want to say, it's weird, we're leaving, how amazing it is to see them. I'm really excited about what they're doing. Not that we don't always, whenever we have parents come, we're fortunate enough to have teachers stay until 8:45 at night and come back and speak to us. But
And volunteer.
they were glowing, and how lucky our students are to have them.
They volunteered. I put out an email to the entire PPS staff, and I asked if everyone was interested in highlighting the work that they're doing in their partnerships. These 6 were within a half an hour replied to me and asked, what do I need? So they were extremely excited to share this experience, and they took a lot of time, and they were very thoughtful in how they were going to present, everything that they do, and to highlight that excitement and the love of the partnerships that they have, because they genuinely are like married couples.
When we talk about students and we talk about success, we talk about students saying that they felt seen, they were connecting with people, and it was obvious that these were people that were very connected to the education and the commitment of student success and measuring outcomes or having the same outcomes. So that was I'm not going to say my favorite.
I would just add, I think, when you look across that table, 5 out of the 6 are new to us in the past 4 years. And so, you can be a wonderful educator and not be inclined in the way that they are to collaborate with each other. And so we've done a lot of work, the board knows as well, in terms of trying to identify people who are not only wonderful educators, but are inclined to collaborate, to lift each other up. I think that's when you think about kind of the career trajectory and how you keep someone inspired over the course of a 25 or 30-year career that can be very isolating. Finding people who are inclined to do that and then putting them regularly in a position to do it is our belief in terms of how you keep those folks like that continually growing in their profession, and they're evidence of that. So, wonderful talents and wonderful collaborative talents too.
Okay. So now for the exciting stuff. MTSS. Who remembers RTI, Responsive Intervention?
Oh, yes.
Because I think the last time it was brought to board was 2011. So it is time for an upgrade. So over the past few years, the school districts, public school districts, have really taken a conscious effort to update and I guess really change their format for providing interventions for our struggling or at-risk students. So over the course of the past 5 years, response to intervention as a structure and I guess protocol has evolved into a multi-tiered system of supports. So this particular model targets 3 specific areas. When we think about the whole child and thinking about addressing the needs of the whole student, you look to target supports in academics, social, emotional, and behavior and attendance. So since the spring or early winter of 2024, a steering committee has been meeting, which is multiple members from each school. So we have clinicians, administrators, academic interventionists, our reading specialists, special educators and general educators coming together to really essentially kind of blow up the RTI plan and to rewrite it so that it's more targeted towards the whole child and looking at identifying both entrance and exit criteria for intervention services, establishing tiered models within putting more of an emphasis on the structures of support within the classroom so that the most neediest students are getting the support outside of the classroom at the more advanced tiers of this particular support structure. So we are in the final stages of the development of our standard operating procedural manual because there was a lot of variety amongst the 3 schools. It was very little that was uniform and consistent as it related to meeting the needs of both struggling, at risk, or any students that, may be brought to the committee as far as having a need or a deficit that needed to be supported. So we've really worked hard to define, specific criteria, but also taking into consideration the human capital at each building and the pre-existing structures at each building. So we changed a lot of our language. At the elementary school, it was the RTI committee. Middle, at-risk, at-risk committee. High school, they had an at-risk, but they also had like an academic intervention committee. So there was so much variability in the terminology. So we've worked really hard in identifying a universal, understanding of all of the facets, just so that as kids transition up, as teachers, maybe transferred up, the language is the same, so that the understanding across the district and anyone we communicate to will have the same understanding, because we are all basing our information on the same protocol and structure. So as we transition into the multi-tiered system of support, MTSS, we look to identify a data platform that would help support the collection of the data that we're collecting. Years ago, prior to my time here, Alpine was the data collection kind of platform that was being used. So if there was an RTI meeting at the time, someone takes notes, they upload it into Alpine, the teachers in the middle school and high school would be able to access that same information. There was a data breach, from what I understand, with the company in general, so they kind of went belly up. So we no longer had a uniform, a platform, a data platform that was accessible across the district. So we partnered with Branching Minds, which is a data platform system, but the real benefit of this is that as you're entering the data into the system, let's say for a particular student, it will identify and target like foundational skills that the child needs to kind of help close the gap. So it helps in the planning and the determining, that course of action for that particular struggling student. And the data can be collected, graphed, makes it very presentable and understandable for a parent meeting when a child is, either advancing or can, go back to just instruction within the classroom. The information that is generated through this particular platform is very user-friendly. The resources, user-friendly. The recommendations that they make for interventions for a struggling student are evidence-based. So it is extremely structured and has been trialed. This year we were doing K to 8 only because they had the most structured intervention program. So we've established data teams at each building, and that consists of the administrator, school psychologist, and the grade level special educator to kind of help manage the data for that particular building. The special educator assigned to a specific grade is like the liaison, the data liaison. So when they have team meetings or PLCs, professional learning community meetings, they would be the one to kind of input data and or extract data to share for the conversation at those particular meetings. So we've transitioned nicely into this. Next year we'll add the high school grades so that they have access to current 8th graders that may have some sort of intervention or data that's been stored within this particular system. And then Miss Fiorini has been doing a fabulous job at establishing an intervention program for our current 9th graders. So our expectation and hope is that that will, transition up to sophomore year with them. So then we could really look to have a more unified system across the 3 buildings.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yes.
Does Branching Minds come to us through BOCES? Is that like...
We are partnered. It is aidable through BOCES, yes. It is, and they have provided us 6 hours of professional development,
Nice.
3 of which we did on our 2nd August Superintendent Conference Day, and then on the half day, December 10th, we're going to conclude that. And initially, the first training was more just, this is the dashboard, access it. We had some modules that we were able to use to kind of, explore it. But the session that we'll have on December 10th is going to be focused on using the data to make instructional decisions.
Nice.
And how to read and generate specific reports to help us in the planning for our students. And we thought it prudent to do it at the end of like the quarter with a couple of weeks, just so that we have a whole 10 weeks or more of data to look at and, you know, to kind of manipulate and start to really dive into to help us with planning.
This is like Christmas for you.
Super exciting.
Well, no wonder you said it was the most exciting.
I said the most exciting for me. So another initiative and you know, highlight that I wanted to bring to the attention of the board and the community is our transition support program. So for those of you that are familiar with the components and parts of an individualized education plan, Neil, I know you are, but for the other members that may not have insight into what an IEP involves, for any student that is classified with an educational disability, in the year in which they turn 15, the committee and their parent, case manager, and the student develop transition goals. So they're done annually, as is the IUP, it's developed annually. But you look to provide some foundational information in establishing a path to post-secondary goals, right, and aspirations. So, you know, we've kind of struggled with managing, you know, that because, you know, when you think of the number of kids at the high school specifically that are all, and it kind of starts for some 8th graders, depending on their birthday. Some of them may turn 15 in the year of their in 8th grade. So you have case managers managing the academic intervention and programming, related service programming, and then we partner with the school counselors to help with the transition and post-secondary goals. You know, what we've done historically, it's been very individualized, but yet basic. So our hopes is with this new partnership with this agency, Search for Change, which is an agency that is contracted through Access VR, we have established, with the help of our transition coordinators, which are Carmen, Eileen Stark, and Nicole Dennis. They are our coordinators, so they are the ones that are really encouraged and helping to really foster this partnership with Search for Change. So the process involves a student with a disability age 14 to 21. And if they do graduate from high school, but they're enrolled in a full-time program, they are still eligible for this particular program. So there are different components and I guess facets of the transition support program. There's self-advocacy, pre-vocational skills, on-the-job training like an externship or internship that is facilitated by an employee or a consultant coach through Search for Change. So we have a very small cohort of, they are both 9th through 11th graders right now that are accessing the self-advocacy program with Search for Change. So a representative comes into the school on Monday afternoons. We've allocated a period. So they meet with the student to help customize, you know, plans for them. So there was a lot of work on the front end where there was a lot of interest surveys by the child, the family, what their goals are for the particular, you know, student. And we've helped to really kind of carve out a more defined path for these particular students, where I feel like in the past we've kind of struggled with because we were thinking inside of the box. But now with this partnership, we can think outside of the box and providing opportunities for our students with disabilities. And this program will follow a child, like for our current 9th graders, they will have this level of support through this agency through past graduation into college or any post-secondary opportunities that they take advantage of, which is exciting.
Is, because you said at 15 is when they kind of do the evaluation. For the students that are older than that are still in our system, that are still under our care, are they?
Yes.
Okay.
We recruited them as well, you know, and parents had to fill out some forms. We have a student that is actually away at college that has connected with a coach from this too to help with like executive functioning and planning and managing the demands of freshman year away from home. So it has a wide reach. You know, the paperwork can be a bit time consuming, but it's worth it once the child gets approval for Access VR services which they in turn partner with.
We're paying for this.
No, it's
No?
free.
Wow.
It's free. Yeah, it's free. Now, the spotlight. Okay, so, let me just get to my notes. There's a lot of numbers. I'm not a data guru like our esteemed superintendent. I'm gonna try to get through this, right? So, our limited English proficiency rates. I looked at a span from 2017 up through this current school year. You can see just visually the increase in the number of students with limited English proficiency. What I do need to say is that an LEP student is someone whose native language is not English. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are receiving direct support through an ENL teacher, on a day-to-day basis. But at one point in time in their academic career, they were receiving services or transitioned out because they reached proficiency in their language development. And on the NICESLAT, which is the annual test that they are administered, which is listening, speaking, reading, writing, students have progressed and exited out, but they still maintain an LEP status. So this number is the total of our students that fall within that category, which is, I think, 2 years beyond their exit. They still get a level of support. But at this current time, there are 64 students of that 92 for this current school year that are getting direct support by an ENL teacher. Our classified enrollment. These numbers are also, very interesting. I looked at the number of students that have been classified with an educational disability and have an individualized education plan. It was pretty stable, from 2020 through the end of 2023 school year. And then there was a spike in 2023, 2024, and then a very sharp decline. So this was curious to me, because I said, I know I didn't declassify 30 kids over that particular school year. The graduating class of 2024 had 30 students with IEPs in it. 28 students with IEPs. That's where that dip was. Almost 30 students. And then there were 2 that had 504s. So that was that extreme decline in that particular enrollment number.
That was the grade that had the reading change in the 8th grade, wasn't it? No, never mind, go on. Yeah.
So with with that particular cohort of students, we had a decrease of about 12.7% based on the graduating class of 2024. And then it increased slightly, about 8%, into between then and this particular school year. So these numbers represent students that are both receiving their free and appropriate public education in district, in CSE placements, and students that are parentally placed by their families at a private school. But we as a district of residents hold CSE responsibilities. So we develop an IEP for all students within the Croton Harmon School District annually. And they can take it and go, as they please, and ask the private school if they could implement. So in looking at the Putnam Northern BOCES component districts, we fall right in the middle. So we have 15% of our students in our student enrollment, 15% have educational disabilities. And that falls within average of the 17 component districts. Nationally, the rate is about 11 to 12% of a school district's population. So it is slightly higher here, but we're also looking 5 years post-COVID, which I think had a major direct impact on the number of students that were classified, within that window of time.
Does that number in, say, District 17, does that include students that they have come in from out of district? Because there are some districts that will...
No. Okay. The beds are reported to the home district, okay. So essentially the IEP is held at the home district. So okay. That number would be reflective of resident students only. So 504 accommodation plans. These are accommodation plans that are developed similarly to an IEP. However, the plan is just that. It includes accommodations to support a person with a disability, physical, mental impairment that is impacted by, that needs accommodation through a 504 plan in the classroom to access education. So these numbers have risen dramatically. So right now, approximately 10% of our enrollment has a 504. Varying reasons, medical, physical, psychological, disabilities, and the need for accommodations to be fully engaged and participate in the learning environment. But again, when you look at that window of time, 2020 till now, that's like a 67% increase over 5 years in our number of 504s.
But you should point out that some students have both an IEP and a 504.
No.
No?
No.
No.
One or the
One
other.
or the other.
One or the other?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that transition, so let's say I graduate high school with an IEP, I attend, U Albany. I can take my IEP to the Office of Student Affairs and they can transition that to a 504. An IEP is only for ages 3 to 21, but end in 12th grade essentially, or when you commence high school. You do not take an IEP into the workplace or the department, yes, when you complete high school. So the IEP includes accommodations, right? Testing accommodations, modifications to both content, environment, but different. Fall under 2 different laws. 504 is under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and IEP is Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So two different laws guide those 2 documents. But one is exclusively for K to 12 education, and the other could be used in the workplace. The 504 you can take into the workplace.
So before you leave this slide,
Yes.
Rachel, I know you said that the reasons for the increases are varied, but could you speak to, has there been an impact on resources as a result of this? Not really.
No.
It's something that's sort of integrated within.
It's and some of the accommodations can be as minimal as use of foam earplugs during testing, up to needing a reader or things read aloud to them because attention or vision, something that doesn't impact their ability, but it impacts their access or accessibility.
Okay, that makes sense. And I'm curious if again, I don't think there's data on this, but looking at the national picture, do you think that there's just sort of been an increase in diagnoses or just an increase in awareness on the part of families that there are ways to support your child sort of more programmatically through a 504?
It's an increase of diagnoses. Clearly.
Okay.
Clearly. When you think of the 159, and this is just me ballparking, of our 159 students with, 504s, I would say approximately a quarter of them are due to a generalized anxiety disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, where they require, and maybe more, the percentage, I may have been on the low end, but that's a lot of the diagnoses that have those particular profiles of students require supports through accommodations.
Right. Okay.
But not necessarily specialized instruction, which is really the core difference in an IUP versus a 504.
I'm so glad that we've created those flex spaces and some of the other alternate seating accommodations and the lounge areas.
A lot of built-ins that everyone could access.
Yes. Thank you.
So out of district placements, annually you hear me boast about our programs and bringing kids in and keeping our kids here, right? And being able to provide them the specialized programming that they need. But there are still about 15 students out of our total classified students that require something more than what we could provide here. So out of those 15 students, we have one that attends another public school program, which is an adjacent, a very near community. School has a very specialized program to meet that particular student's needs. We have about 5 students attend a BOCES, and they attend both our Putnam Northern BOCES and Rockland BOCES. None of our students are placed in the Southern Westchester BOCES programs. And then 60%, which is equivalent to about 9 students, attend a private day program, highly therapeutic, and with a clinical component built in throughout the school day. And they attend that particular program, those types of programs, which that private day of the 5 students, or pardon me, the 9 students, they're split amongst 3 private day programs.
So on that, just one question, we don't have any students at the moment that we are sending to a residential, because we have in the past.
Yes, we have.
And that is even more expensive.
It is.
Because we're responsible for more costs and transportation and a lot of
4
other stuff.
times a year, yes. We haven't had residential placements in maybe 2.5 years or so. But that always changes and evolves, depending on needs and the CSD recommendations. But right now, none currently. So I am proud to report that Ellen Ellen provided me with this data because she's like the data guru, second to Steve Walker. So our special education subgroup had reached 33% proficiency on the ELA, the state ELA exam. And that's a pretty remarkable increase from 19%, and that was the 24-25 data at 33% proficiency. But it definitely showed a remarkable increase from the 19% the year prior. So I'm very proud of our special educators and both our general educators that are providing the support alongside or alone, to our students with disabilities, and providing them the skills that they need to be successful on this.
Do you have any theories?
No, I don't.
Just came together.
I think it all just came together, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like lightning in a bottle. Steve's a little jargon. And then in looking again, comparing Croton to the Putnam Northern component districts, we are number 6 in ranking with our 33% of our students our students with disabilities receive a level 3 or 4 on the ELA exam. And that's impressive. Very impressive.
I think we've asked all the questions. Yeah. Well, I do want to start, I'm so sorry, I want to start with Philomena again. She, our student ex officio, if you have any more questions or don't feel compelled or on the spot.
No, definitely no questions, but yeah, just again, I feel like, a lot of students in general, I just feel like it's good information to know that I feel like a lot of people just don't know about. And so I think it's all just very interesting to hear about and take in and again, see all the amazing stuff that goes on behind the scenes and all that stuff. I just think it's really great. It's awesome to hear about.
Oh, okay. So I think that this is a quick question. So going back to the multi-tiered system of support that is being developed, and it said you're developing the draft of an SOP. Is that a document that is typically available for the public to see or for us to see, and where would people find it, or is that something that's usually kept more internally?
No, it would be something that's publicized, through our webpage, our PPS webpage. And we had the RTI plan up with that particular procedural manual, but it was so antiquated. We did it under construction because we have been working really hard to refine this manual. So it will be both under, curriculum and instruction, the building level teams, mine, it would be accessible to multiple entry points on the webpage.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And by SOP, you meant system of support?
Standard operating procedure.
See, I didn't know. That's why I asked.
So I have a suggestion or request. because Rachel,
Hopeless, go ahead.
Rachel did say, oh,
It
you know,
doesn't fall into what's operational, right?
no, you understand, Neil, but others might not. What I think would be really useful for everybody is if we at some point could kind of go through a couple of IEPs or 504 plans.
Why?
So
Why
that
would we do that?
just, no, not of an individual, not of, you know, anonymized, not a real, anonymized, just to kind of understand the process. Because we get, you know, we will be approving, if not today, or other than we approve special ed placements. We have a kind of a, you know, description of the different supports that are going to be provided pursuant to the IEP and some summary notes. But I think it might be helpful for all of us just to kind of understand what goes into that without, you know, without obviously referring to a particular student. So we can see in part, you know, the care that we know is done in doing that individualized assessment and, you know, the process that you can explain to us. And it could be, maybe it's an exec session thing because it relates to student records, or maybe it's something which is for our professional development in a retreat type setting. But I think it would be useful so we understand what we're all talking about.
Your level of excitement, I feel it. I don't necessarily feel it.
If my colleagues say,
No, well, I have a great idea so I have facilitated mock CSE meetings where everyone's given a scenario card or you're the parent, you're the lawyer, you're this. And to see the dynamic with one skilled facilitator, like being the chairperson, and I ran that with our current PPS staff, and I had done it before with a whole bunch of administrators. It was definitely an enlightening experience, and I would be willing to organize that upon the request of whomever at a board retreat, or maybe just a Friday night, you know, Friday night, we'll all come together.
Learning walk or something like that next year. Honestly, my only hesitation in that is just that in hearing all the work that you're doing, I wouldn't want to tax you on something like that and like blindside it and put it on your plate.
Oh my goodness, I have the scenario cards already. Like I can come up with those scenarios like that. You let me know. I need some advance notice because for this particular group, I'd have to be very creative in developing the members of the CSC.
Yeah, no, I think it sounds interesting. I'm with you.
Thank you. I really appreciate this time.
Thank you. This is.
Anything?
Yeah. I don't have any questions.
No, I think
we
you
answered the questions during.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for this.
This is amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations on those numbers.
Yeah.
Right? And on giving this a much needed, you know, zhuzh after 2011, and undertaking all of this and streamlining it from building to building across the district. It's amazing.
It's a lot
For
of work.
everybody. It is a lot of work, but it'll.
It's worth it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I'm going to return to the agenda then. Sounds good, okay. Thank you again, and thank you again to teachers who are left. Hopefully they're clear on their way home by now. Returning to the agenda and instructional personnel, item 3.1. Instructional personnel recommendation, leave replacement. Recommended action, be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the appointment of Megan O'Leary as a 1.0 leave replacement position for Bianca Pizzuti as an elementary teacher at Keary East Conference Elementary School, effective November 21st, 2025 through February 27th, 2026, to be compensated at an annual salary of $69,254 prorated.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Moving into item 4.1, our donation. From Chef, learning how to ride a bike. Recommended action, be it resolved that the Board of Education gratefully accepts a grant from the Quilton Harmon Education Foundation, Chef, in the amount of $5,478 for the purchase of bicycles for kindergarten and first grades to learn how to ride. My understanding is that this was coordinated through Ms. Leslie. How exciting.
Yes, it's excellent.
Do you know how many bikes it is?
It's a 22, I believe. 22 bikes.
Wow. On the question?
Yeah, just one thing on the question. I guess it's a matter of logistics and storage. I'm assuming they're relatively small bikes, but do we have, I assume we have a place.
Yes, there'll be a shed. We're working on some.
Oh, so you're thinking about outdoor.
Under the stage in the multi-purpose.
Yeah, we're working through the logistics on that now.
Okay, so that, and is that's going to be a cost that would not be covered by this?
Not through
The
this.
shed,
it's not
No,
through
this
this.
is just.
This is just something else we would have to do from somewhere. Okay.
I'll chime in and just say I had the opportunity as liaison to the Village's Bicycle Pedestrian Committee to meet with Ms. Leslie about her excitement about what she's going to be able to do with this grant. She has already put together big ideas, and I think is going to be, she's going to be connecting with key community members in our village to sort of think of a way to sort of launch this now that she's received this grant, which was one of actually 2 grants that she received to fund this program. She's really been thoughtful in thinking about sort of like how to implement it, make it lasting. And one of the things that I really liked is this idea of focusing on something that can be unique to K and 1 at CET. Similar to, for those of us who have kids who've been through CET recently, learning how to rollerblade in the upper grades, which again is a very special thing. I think also the other thing that I really like about this is that it's a way to, in terms of our overall view of like health and wellness and you know, like an approach to sports generally in the community is to be introducing these sort of like life sports that everyone can do. You don't have to be on a team. It's something that you can do by yourself. It's something that you can do with your family. And just to be able to have that time and space to be able to practice doing this, you know, on like a parking lot at school, that's kind of a big deal. So it's really great. Thank you to Chef for their support of this and to Ms. Leslie for putting it together.
I just want to echo that I'm so appreciative of this. Like, as a parent who lives on a driveway like this, I actually embarrassingly took such a long time for my kids to learn, you know, how to ride a bicycle. And to me, this is real about equity and access and transportation. So I'm really excited about this. Thank you. And so thank you for finding storage for this.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Moving into our consent agenda, item 5.1, recommended action be resolved. The Board of Education hereby approves all items in the consent agenda. So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Moving into our closing of the meeting, item 6.1, board reports, starting with advocacy.
So the advocacy committee met last week.
Last
So
Monday,
we're together, yes, last week. And we discussed what, you know, looking ahead, looking at both WestPUT, LHEC, and LISCUS's advocacy priorities and legislative priorities for the coming year. Looking at things that we felt resonated and were really important from a district perspective as well. And some of the things we discussed were, you know, foundation aid and maintaining safe, harmless. Looking at the e-bus transition schedule and looking to get some extensions of that timeline, because those dates are coming in really close, really soon. And then also looking at ways to continue our advocacy for increased funding for UPK. So those were sort of the top three among some other things that we discussed. And we also discussed maybe putting together a position paper that we could share with the board, and we could discuss as a full board, and then we would be able to share out to the community as well, so that we could increase our advocacy efforts amongst the community as well. And that is about it for our meeting. We will be meeting again, the advocacy committee will be meeting again in January. In between that time, the Westchester Putnam School Boards Association Advocacy Committee will meet December 11th.
That's Zoom, I saw that today. Correct. Yeah. I'm gonna piggyback on you because I attended the Lower Hudson Council of School Superintendents evening with state legislatures outlining their legislative priorities last night in Harrison. They circulated their 5-plank advocacy agenda for 25-26, which I'm going to boil down. It's going to take me a minute. So the first one was foundation aid reform and statewide multi-year modeling study. They're asking for a 2-year statewide modeling study and reiterating the hold harmless allocation, meaning that during the 2-year study, no district should receive less than its prior year foundation and allocation. The focus of this is to ensure that every district remains fiscally sound to be able to be compliant with ensuring every student receive a sound basic education. So they were very particular about giving districts this language in terms of what's required federally and anchoring some of these asks in doing what's required. So the second was protecting public education funding. Basically, this is a discussion regarding charter schools. There has been an application for a charter school in Peekskill. Some of the concern regarding that is that that is not actually, and I didn't know this was an education for me, so I'll share this with my fellow trustees because I don't know if you guys know this, but these charter schools are regulated through the SUNY chancellors. They're not regulated through the New York State Department of Education. So there's a disconnect between...
There are some that are,
there's
some are SED, some are SUNY.
My understanding is that the ones that are, because now that New York City has reached its max, there are no more there. The ones that are coming to Westchester are run through SUNY.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I didn't know either.
Yeah. And just for the public's purposes of just kind of sharing what I learned last night, I don't know that I was fully aware that some of these charters don't have to take every student, that they can turn students away, and that they immediately just take our funding. So if an allocation for students, I think right now is $40,000 per student, and that was like an estimate that some of the districts were working with. That's just, if you lose a student to a charter, that's just money that comes off the top line of what you receive from the state. So that's something to be concerned about, I think, and definitely advocate for maybe not having that overreach in terms of impacting individual districts and their budgets. The third kind of prong in all of this was unfunded mandates. So they talked about electric school buses, the cardiac emergency responses that they're talking about with DISH's law, and then redirecting compliance oversight for parochial schools and private schools and busing. And they asked that any new mandate undergo a 2-year fully funded pilot prior to enactment to ensure that other districts can prepare and learn from those districts. So that you fully understand what it is to undergo something the state's asking you to do and what the impact is of it over time. The fourth is student mental health and well-being and supporting all of the scaffolding for that. And the last one was teacher and leadership pipelines, allowing districts to grow your own programs, state incentives for educators to serve in high-need subjects and areas, and strengthen tuition forgiveness programs in partnership with graduate schools of education. So there was some discussion. I was able to sit with our Assemblywoman Dana Levenberg and with other superintendents and trustees from the area, and we were able to advocate for an increased funding per student for state-funded UPK programs. Right now there is that gap. There are some districts, we receive something like $5,000 more or less per student. There are some districts that have tapped into grant money that increases their allocation to $10,000 per student. Is that right?
The expansion
It's
grant.
the expansion grant, right, which we do not qualify for. We do not qualify for that. Because is that a needs-based grant?
It was an incentive for programs to open up additional spots, or to start a program. So it was like an incentive that was brought on just last year, the year before.
After we already received our initial funding, which placed us in like kind of
The
the
lower
moderate or lower rank, yeah.
And was the expansion grant just a one-year thing, or was it in perpetuity?
No.
They said it was a one-year thing.
Was it a one?
Well, they were saying that you have to apply for it every year.
Yeah, you have to apply.
you have to apply for it every year. And we were able to also express some concerns we have regarding servicing and availability of electric buses. And other regional leaders expressed some extreme financial hardship concerns regarding meeting the mandate for e-buses. One district even asking whether the state would ask them to, fire teachers because they wouldn't be able to reach that mandate. So at the close of the meeting, each table, because there were tables that were from different areas, was able to express some of the recaps, and I will close in just giving you the highlights of that. There was consensus and alignment across the room for what is important and what is a strong position in terms of legislative advocacy, which was great. I think our elected officials were very happy to hear that this is a room that, for the most part, was in consensus about what they were talking about, because then they don't feel like they're having to, cater to one district or cater to the other. So that consensus and alignment was important. Some of the legislators talked about offering districts relief by way of procurement reform. They were saying that there is a lot of red tape that is mandated by the state. To alleviate some of that would open up funding or have more flexibility in terms of using resources. There was some concern from districts regarding the inequity in private schools competing against public schools in athletics. So that was something that was real. And there was a board member from Rockland County who was sponsoring Assembly Bill number 9187, postponing the start date and end date for the implementation of the e-buses based on the limited number of manufacturers. And he cited that there were only 23 manufacturers of e-buses nationwide, and there was a 4,400 buses to date that had been ordered that had not been able to be fulfilled. So those numbers, I think, I'm sorry? Yes. So that I thought was those were very real numbers to consider. These are, there's already a back order of 4,400 e-buses nationwide. So it would almost be impossible to maintain that mandate. There was some discussion regarding the ramifications of dismantling the Department of Education and the impact of the statewide free lunch, reducing the amount of people providing federal free and reduced lunch forms, and how limiting it was to not be able to collect that data, to then turn around and declare students who needed aid at different times. So I would encourage my fellow trustees the next time that there's an opportunity like this. It was super informative. These are very dedicated people in the room. Lou Wood ran that again, so it was the second time that we saw him because we had seen him the week before at the West Putt dinner on AI. But these are people who are so passionate. It's almost energizing to be in a room with them. So that's it. Sorry. Thanks for letting me talk on all of that.
I think you should share your notes just like Neil did, because that was a great roundup.
I actually do have my notes, and I will be sharing.
Even your roundup was great.
I will be sharing their position paper and the memorandum that they sent to legislature. I'll scan it and I'll send it to everybody tomorrow, including the admin team. I know Steve, you probably already got it because but I will circle.
Thank you. That's great.
And Philomena, so you could take it to SFC, so you could share it with everybody if you feel like this is what we're talking about statewide in terms of advocacy efforts.
For sure.
Going back to the agenda. Yep. Audit.
No meeting scheduled till the new year.
Board development.
Yeah, I have to turn to my screen. Our next meeting is scheduled for December 4th. We are going to be planning out a little bit hopefully in a little bit more detail, our winter retreat. Thank you to all who replied on the dates. I guess if you hear from Denise and me and then I text you, people respond, so we're going to remember that next time. It worked. Of course, now we have a challenge where like the dates don't work for anybody, but that is a me and Denise problem, not a you problem.
We're looking at February.
Yeah, well, let's hope not, because then that puts us up against our next retreat, which we don't want to do. So we'll have to come back and think about that. We're also going to, our goal is to be able to come back to our next regular meeting with refined board goals for adoption. So we'll be hopefully ready to do that by the time we get to the next meeting. That's all we have. Our next meeting is December 4th. I don't know if I said that already.
No, you did, but that's the same night.
I know, so we'll have to see how we're going to make the magic happen now.
Okay, well, it's called placeholder.
People have to like work on policies and things like that in their free time, so we may have to also have a little board development homework. Oh, there's more, sorry. No, not board development, it's my other board reports for my other stuff, sorry.
Communications?
So our next meeting will be on December 8th. I don't have any updates from our last report, but yeah, December 8th we will meet again.
I'm sure policy has nothing to say.
I have a little to say. Policy met on Tuesday, the 18th. We discussed each of the policies that had been discussed for first reading at, the comments that were made. One of them, Student Privacy 5500, has been reviewed and advanced to second reading. The remainder, there are questions and issues that were brought up here, brought up by other members of the board or members of the community who had brought them to the committee. We discussed them and we will have to deal with them at our next meeting, which is on December 16th.
It actually feels like we're meeting for policy like every day. I feel like it's all policy all the time, and I'm loving it, thank you.
Or 7 years.
It's only my second year.
Or 7 years?
Policy in, policy out.
Liaison reports, does anybody have anything they want to share?
A couple of things for liaison reports. The first is that on the 10th, I attended the district-wide safety team kind of meeting on basically part of the training for the members of the district-wide safety team. And there was a discussion regarding how emergency response will be dealt with. Obviously, that is not something that we will address publicly, but I just wanted to let everybody know that, and let the community know that when we talk about safety and security and dealing with incidents, we work closely with our police department, our fire department, Altaris as our consultant, and it's something that needs to be taken seriously. I don't think we're going to talk about, or unless you want, the committees that we are liaisons to, or members of the district committees.
You can.
Okay.
I'm going to.
Okay, so I am on the assessment and feedback committee. We met Monday, I think it was.
Yep.
And Omar and I are on that, and we basically reviewed the different readings that we had all done about assessment, what we learned about it, and we're going to build on that to make, I guess I'd say, more, kind of work on what assessment really should be and how we should use it for students, both formative, summative, report cards, etc. Excuse me. I'm also on the what success means for schools committee. We met sometime, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, and once again went through a series of readings, and we are meeting again sometime, I think.
I think it's December 8th.
December 8th, and then we will continue that. And what I see is that those two are connected. How we assess, how we give feedback, ties into how do we define success, because your assessments should follow through, much as we heard from the presenters here from CET and from high school. So there will be more to come on that. I know Anna mentioned that we had been, Anna, Anamika and I went to the dinner last week.
Who knew Carmel was that far?
Oh,
We do.
we do.
I said, I'm still in Carmel.
And we went on the fast way.
At Tilly Foster Farm and heard a presentation from someone from Lyric.
Alan McDonald, Executive Director.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
About AI and kind of the human connection to AI. It was a great discussion and really informed some of the things that at least I had heard about in discussions about AI policy and protocols and frameworks and guidelines that a district develops to kind of put it all together in a way that makes sense. So, I don't know if I have anything else. So
Yeah, and the sneak preview to that is that with respect to policy, she was saying that an AI policy should really just be a cross-reference of all of the other policies you have, because it's evolving so quickly that you really can't do that.
yes, and a rather, a statement of value, so to speak. And then everything else is the work done by our professionals to flesh out exactly how it should be used. The interesting thing about AI is, as I've been thinking about, when you hear how AI, and I've heard this on various, kind of radio, podcasts, etc., is used in business, in industry, and how it will be used, part of what I think those protocols are, not the policy, but the protocols and the frameworks and what we teach kids, much as we've talked about, teaching other skills, is the skills of understanding artificial intelligence, understanding how it may evolve, will evolve, and how you're going to be called upon to use it, deal with it in your collegiate life or in your work life, so that, we understand, our students understand what
Digital literacy. Right?
and the brave new world may be.
To piggyback off of that, because Neil and I attended the same committee, the assignment that Neil alluded to was to all the participants to go do some research on what does assessment and feedback look like, what best practices, and come back and report. And there was a common theme that kind of emerged where multiple members of the community had pointed out around improvements around feedback and the timing of feedback. And this subject is, my area of expertise and my research interest is in student outcomes and student performance. So one of the things that was worth highlighting is what the research has been showing is, while standardized test scores provide meaningful measures, that GPA has been found to be a better predictor of student performance, because GPA captures study habits, persistence, captures all of those other factors that a test once a year won't be able to capture. And then the other factor around practices that improve outcomes was around the timing of feedback, and it's actually, goes back to the ICT model, right? And that the research has found when you capture students at the right moment when they're struggling with mastery of a subject, if you provide that feedback to them, give them a model, whether the right model to kind of copy or work off of or provide some support, it has the potential of foregoing, one researcher said, months of instructional time. Right? So having that immediate feedback for students has been shown to be the single or largest factor in improving academic performance. So yeah, we're going to come back and talk about how does that all kind of fit in and what we're going to do going forward.
I'm sorry, I wanted to do this again because I keep forgetting to do it, but next time I'm going to be very good about doing this. Do you have anything you wanted to report back to the board from SFC?
Last meeting, I feel like one of the main subjects was actually about the board and the students coming here. So we kind of, two of the SFC members made a proposal about how we're thinking to go about that. So I think they're planning on it looking something like 2 members from Congress would come in and sit down and then take their own forms of notes and just see how everything works and stuff. And it would be we're gonna have a sign-up sheet and it would rotate every meeting. But we're gonna do, I think they were thinking 2 members per meeting just because of the number of board meetings, so that way everyone has a chance and an opportunity to come in here. And then the other thing we talked about last Congress meeting was our different committees and those reports where finance is working on our annual ping pong tournament, very exciting. And also we're gonna plan another event this year, something in the winter, and we're gonna collaborate with Spirit Club with that. And yeah, so we're mainly just talking about the ping pong tournament and also the board here, and I don't think I missed anything.
Yeah. That's what I recollect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Allison?
So I have 3 things. One is I'm the liaison to the Village Idea Committee, and we met last Friday, and they ran, I think it sounds like I unfortunately wasn't able to go to them, but 2 very successful events. Their first one in October was Hispanic Heritage Month celebration at the library. I know some local school district families also participated in it and helped with the event. And then on November 8th, they had a screening of The Arrivals, a documentary about some of the recent immigrants that have come and have not had great support. So they had the filmmakers, a documentary, and a really good turnout. So it sounds like they've been doing some really dynamic programming with that. I think 2 of the things, my notes that I thought that also bubbled up that our interest is, again, I feel like during the meeting we talk about student representation, but I'm not sure if it's happening yet. I think they said they used to have a student rep on the Portland Pride Club, and there's an interest in reconnecting that. I'm not sure if that totally fell aside, but there is a lot of interest in that. And that it was also brought up by the village liaison to the committee, one of the trustees, that at the not last night's, but the previous village trustee board meeting, hope you could still follow me, one of the things that they were talking about was their committee structure. The IDEA committee being one, the bike pedestrian committee, and it sounds like the village is going through an exercise of trying to understand what they've been doing, what the structures are, and think about what is our representation as a BUE on their committees, and then also ask, well, what could their representation be on some of our committees? So that was, she just brought that up, that was a conversation that they're having. Yeah, and I have 2, is it okay to launch into 2 other things?
Sure.
Okay, so I just wanted to give a shout out to the Curtin Harmon High School, the play All in the Timing. I know several went, it was fantastic. It was a really lovely show. It was great to see it in the new auditorium, so a lot of wonderful talent. So I was really thrilled to see that. And the next thing I wanted to share is I attended a webinar, I'm going to look at my notes, called College Admissions Trends You Need to Know by the National Association for College Admission Counseling. I think it's called NACIC. Okay. And so just want to thank Principal Laura Duback, who shared this opportunity to us as BUE members and let us know that the high school guidance department was attending this important professional development. So this event was intended to give guidance counselors insights into admissions trends, looking at national data, and sharing the perspectives of college admissions officers and high school students. And so because I work in higher education and I have 2 kids who just went through this process, I was particularly excited to learn what they were saying. And so they covered a lot, but there was one section that focused on data that they collected from fall 2023 on the most important factors in college admissions decisions according to 185 college admissions officers versus the assumptions of 1,000 high school students. And so I was struck by the difference in their perspective. So students believed that their grades in all courses and admission test scores, like the SAT and ACT, were the 2 most important factors, kind of like one of the things that you raised. However, the college admissions officers indicated that grades in college prep courses and then grades of all courses and plus the strength of the high school curriculum. So AP courses available, honors, advanced learning opportunities, those were the top factors that they're looking at to determine admissions decisions. So, and then, you know, so that you brought up the point, like, do test scores, like, actually indicate, you know, since the few, yeah, and like, I know in my college we talked about that too, but one of the points that they made is that, you know, this data was like from 2023, 2022, and that was during COVID, and a lot of the colleges went test optional during that period of time. So while that might have been, was less important for more of the college admissions officers, the students were kind of aware of that, so that might be the discrepancy. But looking at the data now, there are a growing number of schools that are requiring the testing again, irregardless of, you know, that, especially at the most selective colleges. So we may see a shift towards increased importance of the admissions, in admissions of these test scores again, when the data catches up to the present landscape.
Is that their conclusion, or is that what you're?
That was their conclusion, yeah. And I've shared the deck, but I could also, there was some other materials. It was really like a great presentation. So again, thank you to Laura for sharing that. So to me, this presentation helps us understand what is required of us and our students from universities, and it helps our committed guidance departments in the high school and PVC to support students and families while they navigate their courses and figure out what their schedules are and think about their future opportunities after CHUFSD. And it also gives us the opportunity to build our course offerings and schedule with an awareness of these expectations. So it was a really, I wanted to just, again, thanks for bringing that to our attention.
On that, I'm going to chime in after that, just because it's on the same time.
Yeah, on this though, I was thinking just of our discussion of assessment and feedback and our discussion of what success means in schools. You know, part of what we've been talking about is in general moving away from perhaps a traditional grading model to try to capture student growth at the end. I mean, the work that I did, the reading I did, was on standard-based grading, which basically says you don't look at the grade book for the entire year. You want to make sure that at the end, the student has achieved the content knowledge and has demonstrated, and this is perhaps rated separately, the stick-to-itiveness, the more soft skill, whatever you want to call it. Persistence, all of those things. And that ties into what does success mean and what do colleges, because I'm thinking also we have New York Inspires, Portrait of the Graduate, New York State coming out with different expectations or whatever that we are now going to be part of, and kind of dovetails with the work we're doing, but may not be consonant with what the college admissions counselors are talking about.
This
And
is
how do you,
Yeah, because they actually had one of the categories of criteria that they had, again, this is from a couple years ago, is portfolios. And that was unfortunately ranked low, but then we have this coming out. So I think, I hate grading, like, and to me, it's like, I want to focus on learning and, and the outcomes. And there's always this tension between these pressures between like the grade and this, like the market expectation versus kind of what we feel like might be more conducive to the community. So I think it's like worthwhile looking at this in conjunction, because I think what we're doing as a district is really important, but we still have to be mindful of like how this is all going to be integrated and communicated.
So
Not to say we're not, but I think, I think this is a hard thing to read, like to needle to thread or whatever.
Sure, and what I would suggest, if there's any materials that you have.
She sent it to the board.
Oh, you already did, well, I didn't read it yet, so that's something that I think we can throw into the assessment
and feedback, yeah.
feedback committee folder, because that's something to consider.
So I was going to say, I actually attended the same webinar that Allison did, and my perspective was a little bit different. I guess I wasn't able to quite as successfully like interpret the data. It was a lot of numbers, and I think for me, what that talk served as was actually like a really good background for the event that I attended the next night, which was the CHHS College Symposium, which I think sort of like brought to the forefront for me. I was there with a student who's a junior, but also just in my capacity as a board trustee to be able to sort of hear about the opportunities that we're introducing for our students. And I think as the data that was shared in that webinar stated, the focus definitely is on, and I think this has already come up tonight, transcripts and grades, because that is really what colleges are looking for in terms of the way that they're assessing students. That is what many of the speakers we heard from last night described as priorities. Not the only thing, but like the priority in terms of what they're looking at. I think the thing that, the other thing that was sort of like a common note was, in fact, yes, that the current view right now for many of those schools is that grades on standardized tests are not the first things that they consider. But I think that the point that perhaps they weren't making so clearly is that many of those schools, the grades of the applicants that they're considering in the first place scores of the applicants they're considering in the first place are so similar that it's not a make or break for them. And I think that's the thing that the data doesn't necessarily fully convey. It's not to say that the scores aren't important. It's just it's part of like a whole sequence of information that they're looking at. So I think the data, combined with, again, some of these, hearing directly from the admissions officers and then getting that larger picture, that's what we really have to be doing as a board and as a district, is listening to all these sources of information and then sort of determining what works best for us here. I just don't think, I think for me it was difficult to hear it all. I don't think that it would have been great to have gone to just one and not the other. I think both of them actually together gave me sort of like a better picture, I think.
One quick thing about, because what's happening is a grade's becoming the floor for an institution. Right? They will not accept anybody less than a 3.5 or a 3 or a 3.9. So it doesn't matter what else you do. If you don't hit that benchmark, you're not going to get in. And if you do, then what differentiates you from every other 3.8 GPA or 3.5 GPA? And that's when they look at other things. But the point is that college and third discipline in higher education is they don't want to admit a student that they question isn't going to go through the full 4 years.
Right.
Because if you drop out in year 2, backfilling for that seat, it's a money problem. Backfilling for that seat is infinitely harder than filling in for a freshman seat. They want to admit students that they have a high confidence that will continue through their full program.
Okay, so I'm going to nerd out for a moment, I'm sorry. Okay, so some of the other things that I came off from the webinar that I thought were helpful is that, like, on the one hand, so they talked about in the next couple of years, there's going to be a birth rate decline. So there's going to be fewer students applying to college because of the financial crisis, I think in 2008, I don't remember. Anyway, so they kind of talk about almost like two worlds, like in terms of college admissions. The good news is that college is more accessible to more students, like for students who are first gen, non-traditionally representative. And if you actually look at the majority of the colleges that they profile in the data, the acceptance rate is actually very optimistic for most people. So if you, like, to me, one of the takeaways is like, if you feel like many of our students who are college ready, there will be a lot of great opportunities for them. But the prestige brand, the highly selective schools, there's only been an increasing number of those applications with the Common App. And one of the things, their high points, like in the slide deck, they said that for those schools, in some ways they're becoming more selective, but it's also more ambiguous in their criteria, because to your point, like how do you compare and contrast? The other thing that they talked about in terms of like the standardized testing is that there are a couple more, colleges that are requiring it, but what they found is that students that come from more affluent communities, they have higher rates of reporting their scores, even when it's test optional. And it's becoming a little bit more of a thing with the selective. So it's almost like a tale of two tracks. And so as we go forward, I think, there's, on the one hand, it can be incredibly anxiety provoking that in some ways it's going to become, it's not going to get better, the competition with these highly selective schools. In some ways it could be a little bit more challenging to figure it out. But that doesn't, those aren't the only other schools that are out there. There's a lot of other great programs. And I think one of the challenges in terms of when we talk about like with portfolios and things like that, like I know where I work, we have limited resource in terms of our admissions counselors. Like we can't go out and just hire somebody new. So because of that, a lot of the times, like some schools that are like public funded or this or that, they might rely, unfortunately, on some of these more like boring standards because they just don't have the human capacity to like read through as many things as carefully. So it's complicated. I think it's going to be continuing, but it's good to have this awareness as we go forward.
Other updates, or do you want me to do more? Do you have has everyone else on?
Oh, I have an answer for this. So just in terms of some upcoming events for West Putt, as I mentioned earlier, the next advocacy meeting will be on December 11th. On December 12th will be the next in the series of school desk lunchtime webinars. And that will be an Ed Law lunch on civil service and transportation. And you can let Denise know if you would like to sign up for that. She will let West Putt know. And then, I'm sorry, I'm just reading the tabs open. In terms of next items coming up then into the new year, we will be looking forward to the legislative forum, which will be through LAGC, and that will be on January 29th. And so that will include legislators from Westchester, Putnam, Rockland, Dutchess, and Orange counties. And that is open. It'll be done on Zoom, and that all of us could attend that. So I highly encourage whatever board members are available to sign on to that. It's a really great opportunity to hear from legislators and also have an opportunity to ask them questions as well. So I just wanted to highlight that for everyone. And also, we got an email today from NYSBA that was showcasing the opening up for the Capitol Conference. So information about that. Again, I believe you can register for that through Denise. And that's what I have for that. The other, in terms of liaison reporting, I did, one of the district committees that I'm on is the Athletic Advisory Council, and we did meet this past week. So I was able to attend that. It was a really great discussion. We had really good attendance, different community members, students. Christine facilitated that conversation, and the fall sports season, gathering some feedback from there, looking ahead to winter and spring, and looking at ways that we can increase community engagement and things that we'll be working on through that committee session. This is sort of the kickoff meeting, but we will be meeting 3 more times throughout the year, so we'll bring you all more information on that. That's it.
You go last? Okay. I have a couple things. Well, I talked a little bit about the stuff that came, or that will be coming actually tonight. The Village's Bicycle Pedestrian Committee is meeting, and on their agenda are a possible collaboration with the thing that Miss Leslie is going to be working on with her chef camp. So that we'll have, watch this space for more to come on that. And another sort of community-wide bicycle pedestrian safety initiative, hopefully that they're talking about, and I'll be able to report back on it if I ever get to go to one of the meetings, because they're always on Thursdays. In terms of liaison, the committee that I'm one of the 2 committees I'm participating in is the School Counseling Advisory Committee, which I also was pleased to see that we actually, in terms of bringing in student representation, this is the first committee I've ever been on with PVC students. This was very exciting. So the committee actually had 2 high school students and 2 PVC students who participated, and the charge of the committee is to evaluate aspects of the counseling program overall, so not just at the high school but across all the buildings. And it was a really interesting sort of introductory conversation to the work and to the scope of what counseling does in each of the different buildings. And it was sort of the beginning of a good conversation, so I'm looking forward to the next conversation there. My other updates are more events and stuff. So I don't know, should I talk about the board officers group thing for Monday? Is that on your list?
I'm done.
You're done? Okay. Well, I wasn't sure. So Anna and I had the opportunity to attend Westchester Putnam School Boards Association board officers, sort of like, I don't know what they call it, an affinity group, a gathering, a Zoom. And I have been finding a lot of the West Pet programming. Thank you, Miss Sarah, because I'm sure that you're involved in pushing some of this stuff out and putting it together, but some really great programming. So we had an opportunity to engage in conversation with other board leaders from other districts, exchange information and best practices, and there was perhaps like a little bit of venting as well, but I think it was a safe space, so that felt good. But it's been great to make these connections, I think, for all of us this year, just to be hearing again about things that are working in other districts and on other boards in terms of moving our shared goals for our school districts forward. So it was a really, really good conversation. The last thing was, as I said, and I know I saw some of my board colleagues there, many of us had the chance to attend the CHHS College Symposium. Was that last night? It's a little bit blurry.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you to our counseling department who invited the board and those of us who were able to attend to have dinner with some of the regional representatives who came in. What I really liked about the programming of this event is that there was a good variety of college representatives from private institutions as well as state institutions, and folks who were there who could also speak about the financial picture of preparing to send a student to college, and also the, like the test prep picture, which is something for some students, is something that families want to think about. So there were resources and sessions for basically almost any question that you have. I thought it was a really, really helpful event, and I think I learned a lot. I think my family learned a lot. I was pleased to say that I was able to go to many of the sessions with the person who is in my family who is in high school. So we were able to, you don't always get to do that, so it was kind of nice. And we got to sort of compare notes and talk about it, and it was like a good jump start for conversations that are happening. So I hope it was the same for other families. I don't know if other folks who were there last night have anything they want to add about that.
Yeah, just to tag on that, it was a great event, and thanks to our counseling team. I think, the breadth of different panel discussions was really interesting, and I think particularly I actually got a lot of value out of that financing discussion, and I was pleased to see a good number of students in that, and not just parents in that session, and the one that I attended at least, including my own student, and it really was a sort of an eye-opening information for them. So I think that was really important, an important aspect to share along with all of the other aspects about applications and then finding the right fit and things like that. So I think there were some really great sessions that were useful to a lot of people. So.
I have two.
This is it. This is all.
I have two things. First, to add is that I thought the discussion we had tonight, coming off of what Allison talked about, was a really great discussion, because I think we should have, and the whole evening has been the opportunity for us to think about students and to think about what we do and to share with each other, share our perspectives. And I hope, even though it's late, but I think it was worth it, and I look forward to other discussions like that. The other thing that I want to mention, unless we're going to have our student trustee talk about it, is an event happening in this building next Monday. I guess by that face, you're not thinking of it. All the distinguished graduates.
Oh yes, that's next Monday.
That's Monday. Yeah, next week is Thanksgiving. So,
December 2nd?
yeah,
No,
that's
it's the 24th.
24th.
It's on
This
24th. This coming Monday. And
This is not on my calendar.
the two honorees are Brian Kelly, class of 2004, same age as my older child, and John Nikotopoulos, police chief, I think class of 77. And I know I will be here attending, and I know the invitation was for the board. Breakfast at like 8:30, ceremony at 9, and then we can join the honorees as they are in school, whatever our availability is. And I think it will be a great occasion.
Thank you for that reminder.
Thank you for the reminder. And what I'm going to ask, because it's like we have this great board district event calendar, and I bet this is on here, and I just didn't see it.
I did not add that.
Oh, well, because it's actually not on here. So just a little reminder that we all have that link to that board district event calendar. And if you're going to something and it's not there, even if you don't want to do like a whole description, just put the date in there, because there's so much going on. It's only like November, and there's 33 events already.
It took me 20 minutes to add.
Okay, then just email me and say, tell me, I'm happy to go in, because it's like, this is starting to become like the thing that I look at now to see where I'm supposed to be on a daily basis. And so I would appreciate it. I remember the Hall of Distinguished Graduates, but I didn't put it on.
I thought it was in the summer.
Yeah.
I have one thing that I'm going to say, and then I promise you, that'll be the last thing. I did want to just, speaking to your point about like going to some of these community events, and especially the West Bend events, I did have the opportunities, I told you guys last time, to connect with the president of the Tarrytown Board, and I'm very happy to report that they tonight held their first version of Meet the BOE. So I feel like we did that. We put that out there. So I think that's very exciting. And I was able to see her last night. Okay, you can talk about that. Well, I will. We were all obviously, I mean, some of us were at the ribbon cutting for the new auditorium. The talent that was showcased there was insane. John said that he had to curate the submissions. So that was very exciting to be there and to hear from everybody. Taka was there speaking on behalf of students. And I mean, the performances spanned all three of the buildings, supported by our incredible educators. And I don't know if either of you want to say something on that. You probably had it in your superintendent's report for the next meeting. Yeah.
I'm going to say more about it because I was so excited. This was like such a high point of my entire week to be at okay, whatever. I know everyone thinks I'm hyperbolic, but it really was. the high point of my entire week. I want to say how like incredibly special it was. Like I'm gonna get very upset because this was so good. But like just to be able to hear, like for example, I've been going to these school concerts now for how many years? I will tell you, 12. And to be able to hear the students from the CET course, singing with students from the PVC course, singing with students from the CHHS course, has that even ever happened before?
Nope.
It has never happened before.
They rehearsed it 7 a.m.
It has never happened before. This happened, was that Tuesday night? I don't remember. Anyway, Tuesday night, this happened Tuesday. Like, this was like a beautiful thing to hear these three groups come together, and like the way that they performed that song was like lovely and incredible. The breadth of talent. You know, the thing is like we have so many artists, musicians, and people who are doing this type of work, because it is work, right? In our schools, a lot of it happens in the schools, but the performances we saw also reflect a lot of students' extracurricular, outside of school, lessons that they're doing, singing lessons, you know, piano. It's like to be able to see like the breadth of what our students are doing in addition to just the time that they spend in school and in school groups, to see that talent on the stage in our own community, really from like, I mean, it was like, you know, I don't know if it was K through 12, but it was like 4 through 12, definitely. There were students across all the buildings really showcasing all the special stuff.
As performers?
As performers.
They were like second grade, first grade.
So they were, right, there, it was, I remember the course started with grade 4, so I wasn't sure, because you know what, I didn't catch like everyone's grades, and I don't obviously know everybody anymore. But I just thought it was the most fantastic thing. The other thing, and I mentioned this to John and Steve, is I think that these performances really sing, no pun intended, when students get to sort of choose their material. And I know that our, you know, in terms of the other performances they do as well, but just that sort of like ownership and agency and what they wanted to bring to the table and perform made it such a special, remarkable night. So thank you again, John, for your leadership in putting this together.
You know, there's one thing I will say about the event, and we have an incredible space for the performing arts. A lot has been invested in it, and in terms of its operations that evening, could not have been possible without Jonathan.
100%.
He is somebody who, if you watch the show and his ability to work with kids and direct them on the stage, and in the case of Tuesday night, to be able to coalesce the lighting and the sound and everything backstage, I just have to give props to the talent of that community member, his interest in being part of our students' lives, and the way with which he's able to do it and bring his talent to that stage is something that we should recognize, because it's a very special.
Well, 100%. Jonathan, who I think
director all the time.
Yes, he's the director.
He's been such a resource to our community, but I think also just in terms of like, you know, one of the things that we're thinking about is being so close to New York City, like having, you know, access to all these artists and people who are really engaged in the work, and now having the opportunity for them to come in and be able to give us that support in a space that really has like professional quality lighting, has, you know, access, has, it's like all this stuff, like performances in our district are going to be incredible for years to come because of all these changes. I think it was really spectacular. I also want to give a shout out to the announcement of our new booster club that is going to be sort of championing the arts, so we got to hear a little bit from them, and it's very exciting to hear that, again, that there's a groundswell of support in the community for the performing arts, visual arts, music as well, and just to, again, to see that like the communities recognize that there's a need for us to elevate that as well. Anyway, I could go on, but I think my time is up. I'll save something for the next meeting.
Can I add to that? One thing, is that this is the first time I've experienced a performance that didn't feel like a school performance.
It was amazing.
It felt like Crocus Got Talent.
Yeah,
It was so well done. Everybody was so incredible. It was truly an amazing, awe-inspiring, humbling experience to be in that auditorium that night. Yes. So anyway, I wanted to echo that.
We might want to think about a board liaison to champ.
Sure. But I want to think about doing this every year. I already told John and Steve. Every year. I want to play these every year. Why not?
I think it is special to have Ms. Horton take students from the 4th grade to be able to conduct them again, you know, the 12th.
Yeah.
All right. Is that anybody? Go ahead.
I just want to give a shout out to the volleyball team.
Yeah.
So there's live tomorrow? Yeah, so it's
And swim.
Thanks.
Yeah. Fingers crossed, guys.
Yeah.
As the superintendent of Yorktown told me that he couldn't be at the West Putt because he was there and he was a little smug about it. I need to be a little smug about it soon, yeah.
Oh, and this Saturday, 2 o'clock, did everybody mention that the tribe?
Oh, yes.
The Tri-Town Symphonic.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Croton Head High, Yorktown.
And
Yes.
Sensei and,
You and I were there last year, Nelson.
Yeah.
That was exciting.
Well, I am hoping to be able to attend that.
Yes.
So I don't know what else I'm hoping to.
Is there going to be an announcement to the community about that?
I think there
Yes,
has been.
Okay, it was, yeah. Great, thanks.
Item 6.2, recommended action. Be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby adjourns the meeting at 10:17 p.m.
so,
Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Have a good evening, everyone.